One of the biggest tragedies in Africa's history was caused by greed and racism. In 1884, European leaders met to explore ways to control the continent of Africa and what they considered an inferior race. Many of today's problems in Africa date back to the Berlin Conference and Europe's thirst to control the land and its people. For a very long time, European countries wanted to colonize Africa. They were mainly interested in the financial benefits of the continent's natural resources: opium, gold, tea, and spices, not to mention the more timely discovery of diamonds in South Africa during the late 1800s. King Leopold II of Belgium had become aware of the rich mineral resources of the Congo Basin and wanted to take control of the region. When he asked the other European countries to approve his claim of the area, they decided it would be in their best interest to come to an agreement on how future claims would be made. Other European nations were becoming concerned that war would break out when any of the countries tried to lay claim to lands in Africa, so they decided to meet and create rules for the division of the continent. The Chancellor of Germany, Otto von Bismarck, organized the Berlin Conference in 1884 to find a way to peacefully take over Africa. He invited 14 countries: Austria, Belgium, Denmark, France, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey. The United States was invited but declined to participate. None of the African leaders were included, thus reinforcing the fact that they had no rights and that no Africans would own their land after the conference. At that time, more than 75% of Africa was under traditional and local control. The land was not separated into regions, but separated into tribes. Before the conference, only 10% of Africa was under direct European control. The resulting agreement, the General Act of the 1885 Conference of Berlin, banned the slave trade in name, but otherwise allowed the European powers to aggressively colonize and exploit Africa's human and natural resources. But at the core of their greed and racism, they wanted colonization because some areas were important for maintaining trade routes. Certain countries made claims for national pride to report throughout Europe that they acquired territories and gained populations. Others claimed lands simply so others would not. And the traditions in Europe at the time emphasized perfectibility of man, meaning that they felt as though they were helping the Dark Continent to raise up and civilize the savage natives. When marking the maps with the boundaries of the new territories, the European powers resorted to drawing straight lines of latitude and longitude and arcs of circles, taking little account of the traditional monarchies and African societies that already existed. The new boundaries cut through more than 190 different cultural groups or enclosed hundreds of independent groups with no common culture, language, or religion. The Belgians acquired what became the Congo. Great Britain claimed the majority of the southeastern tip around the Congo. France took control of most of West Africa. England took over the land from the Cape to Cairo. Spain took the least amount of land, Equatorial Guinea. Portugal claimed the colonies on the southwest, southeast, and west coasts. Only Ethiopia and the Ivory Coast, Liberia, were left as independent states in Africa after 1885. By 1914, the European countries that participated in the Berlin Conference had control over 90% of the land and had divided it into 15 different countries, causing tribes to split apart and opposing tribes being forced to combine. Colonization was fairly easy for the European powers because the African people did not have modern weapons. When they began to take control of their new territories, there was some resistance. Some occurrences were settled with quick, swift actions, like destroying farms, razing villages, and slaughtering livestock. But others were prolonged. Women and children were gathered and placed into concentration camps, where the conditions were so horrible that most died from disease and malnutrition. Many of the African rulers who resisted died in battle, were executed or sent to exile. Many of the European powers spent so much time and effort acquiring new territories in Africa that they then lost interest in them. By this time, the prospect of immediate wealth was gone, and the administration of territories was kept to a minimum. Most of the education in the new territories was delegated to Christian missionaries, and the local government only maintained law and order, raised taxes, and constructed roads and railways. Independence didn't return to Africa until 1950, but the events that occurred will forever be remembered. The reality of the Berlin Conference was terrifying because one continent came together to control the people and resources of another. According to Melvin Bragg on the In Our Time podcast on BBC,
and the decisions reached at it had effects which have lasted to the present day.
The Berlin Conference should serve as a reminder that a people's culture matters, their history matters, and self-rule matters. People want to control their own destiny, to preserve who they are and what they want to be.